The Incredibles, a Disney Pixar animated film released in 2004, following a family of superheroes, and a film I remember enjoying as a kid. And when I enjoyed a film as a kid, tie-in game was a must-have, since my kid brain was like, movie good, game must be good. But was The Incredibles game actually incredible, or incredibly bad? The Incredibles game was developed by Heavy Iron Studios, who also developed many other Disney Pixar games, and it was released for the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and PC and Mac, as well as a side-scrolling beat-em-up game for the Game Boy Advance. The version I played as a kid and for this video was for the GameCube, and I don't ever remember beating the game. I remember some of the levels off the top of my head, but I don't remember much. And the same goes for the movie. Most of the scenes I can remember just come from all the memes. So I'm excited to go on a nostalgia trip and replay this game and also rewatch the movie. When booting up this game and getting to the menu screen, we are greeted by the voice of Samuel L. Jackson.
What are you waiting for? You need permission to start the game?
Close the goddamn door!
Who voices Frozone in the movie, and comes back to reprise his role in the game. Some of, but not all of the movie cast come back to voice their characters in the game. And the voice of Buddy, voiced by Jason Lee, comes back for his role. And he's the reason I was thinking of replaying this game. I got back into skateboarding this year, and one of my favorite skaters is Jason Lee. And his journey from pro skater to actor is quite interesting, which had me remember he voiced in this movie. Now the game opens up with a cutscene from the movie, which all the cutscenes are just compressed scenes from the movie, and has our main character Mr. Incredible answer a distress call, and is on his way to fight some crime. The movie, however, opens up with talking head interviews with Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone, before getting into the action. The game's first main enemy is a villain named Bon Voyage, who's just flying around in a helicopter causing shit, and we gotta go chase him down. When taking control of Mr. Incredible, we are greeted again by the voice of Samuel L. Jackson, who teaches us how to play the game. You can jump with A, basic attack with B, super attack with Y, and grab with X. While holding down the right trigger, you can crouch that allows you to get a bigger jump or dodge in any direction, which helps with dodging attacks or obstacles. You use all these abilities to traverse the first level. Fighting the enemies can be fun sometimes, but other times the enemies can surround you and stun lock you, and can get pretty frustrating. You can interact with lots of the objects around the map, which can be fun, just by punching stuff and destroying it, or throwing it at enemies, or using it to traverse the level. The level ends abruptly and shows stats about your gameplay and loads up the next level that has you take control of Elastigirl. Her controls have different attacks that make use of her elastic superpower that can grab and attack enemies from further away, as well as use it to traverse the map. This switch up of gameplay kept the game fresh, as Elastigirl's abilities were fun to swing around and throw enemies around too. The next level has Mr. Incredible confront Bon Voyage, but is interrupted by his biggest fan Buddy, who gets a bomb attached to him and has Mr. Incredible fly around holding onto Buddy, dodging objects while trying to remove the bomb. After removing it, the boss fight with Bon Voyage initiates, which has you chuck the bombs he shoots at you back at him before he finally goes Bon Voyage. This part took me about 30 minutes to get through, and all this in the movie took around 10 minutes to get through, in a different way of course. The game actually has a bonus feature with a making of the game video, and the game developers at Heavy Iron actually talk about the struggles of making a game at the same time as a movie, as well as scenes not translating from the movie to gameplay easily, which has them focus on small things in the movie that are expanded in the game to actually create gameplay, which is understandable for licensed games. I've seen the same thing with the many that I've played. One thing they left out of the game was a scene of Mr. Incredible saving a suicidal man who ends up suing him because upon saving him, injures him, which is a funny situation. I probably didn't understand a lot of the humor in the movie, and going back and rewatching it, it's actually pretty funny. I'm having a fun time with it now that I'm older. This lawsuit, along with a lot of others, ends up bringing an end to the superhero era, and has them integrate into regular human society. And in the game, it's just told through some newspapers being thrown at the screen, before transitioning into the next level that has Mr. Incredible and Frozone listening to a police scanner to try and find situations to use their superpowers secretly, since you can't be a hero anymore. In the movie, this is shown after introducing the life of Mr. Incredible and Elastigirl, as they're married and have 3 kids. Violet, who can turn invisible and use some kind of force field, Dash, who can just run really fast, and Jack, who's just a baby, and I'm not entirely sure he's even in the game, which I should get back to. The game has us control Mr. Incredible as he and Frozone go through a burning building, fighting a bunch of arsonists who are just hucking flames around. In the movie, they just save a bunch of people from a burning building, and there's no arsonists involved. After making the rescue, it's shown they're being followed, which will come up later because it's time for Dash to get to school, and he missed the bus, so he's gotta haul ass and run to school, in what I can only describe as Pepsi Man-like gameplay. You dodge cars and jump sewer grades while trying to sprint against the clock to get to school, and this was painful for me. The controls are not great for this level. Your sprint goes fast as fuck and is hard to control, which has you crash into something that has you just restart to the last checkpoint. Even without the sprint, it's still hard to control dash. This one took me a little longer, and it was starting to piss me off. This also made me notice that the game fades away from the music when a voice line plays, and Dash's voice was starting to piss me off after hearing it way too many times.
Dash! Oh, motion!
After finally completing the level, Mr. Incredible is back in the hero game, after being scouted by the person we saw tailing them earlier. And this secret organization has Mr. Incredible take down a robot that has gone rogue. You are shot down into a jungle to hunt down the robot, and are informed that the island still has security measures active. This has you fight some of the security measures like robots around the map, as well as solving puzzles to platform to your destination. Some of the platforming was a little challenging and felt a little off, as well as some of the combat. The enemies were either too easy to beat, or just had me stun locked taking tons of damage, which was starting to get a little frustrating. One thing that I thought was cool was the fact that you can cause explosions that cause little fires around the island. A little feature, but still kind of cool. I remember as a kid, games with interactive environments were so cool to me. Like when you could break every single wall down in Battlefield. After fighting some new enemies, platforming, and flinging yourself off trees, you end the level just getting a little closer to the robot. The next level is pretty short compared to the last, but has you do similar things, except it ends with Mr. Incredible taking control of a turret that starts a first-person shooter battle, and the level ends with finally finding the robot, which starts a boss fight fighting the robot in a volcano. And when the battle starts, it looked pretty cool, and I was excited, but I ended up getting pretty disappointed by the fight. The boss fight was unnecessarily hard and long. There's an attack pattern to follow, but Mr. Incredible moves so slow, and the dodging is so hard to get down. Then when it comes to attacking the robot, you can punch its legs that don't do much damage, and the real damage comes from picking up rocks and throwing them at its head. But the rocks are easily destroyed and don't always hit. Needless to say, I sucked ass at this part, and was very relieved when I finally beat it. Mr. Incredible heads back home after finishing his mission, and what they don't show in the game is how great his life becomes since becoming a hero again, as well as him acquiring his newly designed supersuit. They don't even show the character Edna at all in this game, but this mysterious organization still has more work for Mr. Incredible, and he's dropped into the jungle again. And I really enjoyed the graphics and lighting in the jungle. All the green bright colors with sunbeams shining through the trees really tickles my brain. I have a soft spot for green forest and jungle levels, and I think it has something to do with Metal Gear Solid 3. But this level introduces more human bad guys, some with melee attacks and some with long range, as well as laser obstacles that you can maneuver through. But most of this level is the same as the others, just ending with a new mini boss at the end of the level. That's pretty simple to beat. You just dodge its attacks, then wait for it to throw a grenade that can be thrown back at it. It takes 3 grenades to defeat it, which doesn't take too long, and then the level's over. In the movie, when Mr. Incredible goes back for his second mission, he comes face to face with the new bigger robot, and his old fanboy buddy, who's all grown up and is a villain in charge of this mysterious organization. His name is Syndrome now, and he's super OP, and Mr. Incredible barely makes it out alive. But in the game, they don't introduce Syndrome and just hop straight into a boss fight, and it's the exact same as the one earlier in the lava. The only difference is in this one you can be knocked into the water and can swim back before being attacked by these balls in the water. This one again took me a while and was getting pretty frustrating. I was starting to get bored too with just redoing the same boss fight. After beating the robot in the game, it just quickly shows Syndrome in a cutscene, and if you haven't watched the movie, you're really missing out on some of the story. Back home, Mr. Incredible's family is getting pretty suspicious of him and ends up tracking him down to see what he's really up to. The next level has Mr. Incredible beat up guards, platform, and solve puzzles through Syndrome's secret lair. And when I say solve puzzles, it usually means involving typing on a computer or spitting one of these things, which activates some kind of device to help you traverse through the map. The next level is just full of the same shit, but you play as Elastigirl now that the whole family's in Syndrome's lair. After making your way through with Elastigirl, it's another level where you play as Dash, and this shit was hard again. It just had me sprinting into so many objects and constantly going back to checkpoints. I keep accidentally calling Dash Bolt. I keep thinking of that superhero dog. Anyways, after sprinting from Syndrome's robots, you get to play as Violet. It's pretty funny that I mentioned Metal Gear Solid 3 earlier because Violet's levels play like that. You can turn invisible for short amounts of time and must sneak past the guards. One shot from their guns and it's a game over. They even have the question marks and exclamation marks pop up above their heads. I was just waiting for the iconic Metal Gear sound effect. Anyways, the next level has Dash and Violet almost get caught by the guards, but Violet discovers a new ball-like force field power, and the level turns into a Super Monkey Ball level, with Dash sprinting in the ball to take down obstacles. These past few levels were such a nice switch up, since the levels before were just running around Syndrome's base, just doing the same shit, and honestly, that's pretty much what the last bit of the game is like. You swap between Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible and fight enemies, use computers to open up different parts of the map, and sometimes fight a mini-boss. This was getting so repetitive. There was even one level where you fight the same mini mini-boss 3 times, and I was just happy to finally get to the end of these levels. The superhero family is reunited, and they discover Syndrome's plan to eradicate heroes and send a robot to their hometown and beat it to make himself look like a hero, and then sell these robots across the world. But the Incredibles make their way back to the city and they defeat the robot, and in a different way compared to the earlier robot boss fights, and also with the help of Frozone.
Honey!
What?
Where's my super suit?
I was glad to get a new level with some different gameplay, but the boss fight ends pretty quickly, and we get a cutscene of the heroes getting recognized as heroes again after stopping Syndrome's plan. Then the credits play, where you can still walk around and collect bonus items, which I haven't mentioned before. They're hidden items that unlock concept art where you can look at it in the menu of the game. The game leaves out the chunk at the end of the movie where it sets up the sequel where a new villain is introduced, which is funny because it took over 14 years before they made a sequel for the movie. But Heavy Iron Studios hopped on that shit in 2005 and made the sequel video game, The Incredibles: Rise of the Underminer. But enough about the sequel. What did I think about this game? It was fun to go back and get that rush of nostalgia and play this game as well as watch the movie. I forgot how fun the movie was, with lots of cool action scenes and really good humor. While I had a lot of fun with the game, it was held back with some of the not so great combat as well as the repetitive levels, especially near the end. It would just almost get my approval before I was either getting too frustrated or bored with the level. I wouldn't say it's incredibly bad or incredibly good. Maybe incredimid? I don't know. It's definitely one that doesn't live up as well to the nostalgia. And when I've gone back to review other games I played as a kid, there's been some that I've been harsh on, but that's just my opinion. I still love the games since they're a part of my childhood, but sometimes they don't age too well. Let me know if you played this game as a kid, and if you replayed it, let me know how you think it holds up. I never saw the sequel movie or played its ahead of its time sequel game, but it definitely sounds like a future video for sure.